Hello, everyone, and welcome to this hopefully quick presentation by the CCB Career Coaching Center specifically on resumes. The CCB Career Coaching Center is a service that is available to all CCB students. We complement the work that happens at the university level by the UMass Dartmouth Career Center, and we really work intentionally one-on-one with business students who are looking to obtain an internship and also develop their resume post-graduation. So what I want to do today is really just talk about the resume specifically and why it is so incredibly important for you to sort of master the skill of not just developing one, but also tailoring your resume. In essence, right, what the resume does is it provides your future employer with a short story that highlights your skills. The intent of the resume is to get you noticed and to stand out, and ultimately to get invited for an interview so that you can meet the potential folks that are hiring you, tell your personal story, right, and really be able to sort of test out to ensure that the culture is going to match with your values and what you're hoping to achieve for yourself as well. What's really, really important to understand in the resume is that you have very, very limited real estate, right? It's one page. And so we have to make sure that we weigh every single word that goes into it. We have to be intentional about the language that we use, about the verbs that we use, and we have to make sure, and I feel like this is where a lot of students don't necessarily understand this quite yet, is that it's incredibly important that we have to tailor our resume to every single application, because it is absolutely vital that we reflect the key phrases that the company and the organization uses. And we'll talk about that in just a minute. Before we do, I just want to show this slide that provides some context so that you understand the journey that a resume goes through. You might have a resume that you create in a Word document. First thing you have to do is convert that to a PDF, right? And from your base resume, you're going to you're going to list your skills, all of your experience. But if you're applying to, let's say, company A, some of the language that you use in the resume that you send to company A might be very different than what you send in company B. And that does not mean that your skills are changing, because they're not, right? You have the skills and the experience that you have. But how you communicate that to them is important, that you use the same language that they are putting in the job description. Because a couple of the reasons too why we provide and we tell you to use a very simple template is because a lot of companies and organizations will use an applicant tracking software where they have certain key phrases that they will enter into the software program and say, we're looking for applicants that talk about these 5 skills, right? Or that talk about these 5 things in their resume. And so if you don't include them, your resume is going to end up in the recycling bin. Also, if you have a resume that might be aesthetically incredibly pleasing, but there's so much different formatting and pictures on it, the applicant tracking software may not be able to pick out certain key phrases. And because of that, it's going to end up in the recycling bin as well, right? Once it goes through, it makes it through the tracking software, then a recruiter typically does a very, very brief glimpse, and they kind of look at some of these key things, right? Then it'll kind of go on a pile where we look at it in much more detail. And in some cases, right, there might be a search committee or search team that then also reviews the various resumes, ultimately the hiring manager. And in all these cases, right, your resume can be rejected. And so we want to make sure that we at least get through the application software and through some of the initial recruiters to ultimately get you an interview. Just because you get the interview doesn't necessarily mean that you get the job, right? There's some interview skills that we can work with you on as well. And in some cases, it's all about the competition, right? Who you might be competing against for that particular position. But ultimately, of course, in an ideal situation, that would lead to a hire. But again, it all comes down to that resume. And so some of the things that we work with students on specifically is developing what we consider to be a base resume that has a list of all of your experience, and then you can adapt it to the different jobs that you're applying for. You need to make sure that you use the right language, that you are connecting your qualifications to what the company has listed in terms of the job requirements. You want to make sure that you connect those. That is your job as the applicant to make a really easy bridge, right? For those recruiters to be able to see, I'm asking for this and this person can do this, right? This is a skill that they have. Again, the other part of this is that we have to make sure that we identify what some of the key words are that the company uses. And we want to make sure that those key phrases are included in our resume. You can actually use a language tool like ChatGPT to help identify some of these keywords and to also identify where some of the deficits might be in your resume. This is something that we can work with you on one-on-one. Again, you have limited real estate, right? Resumes are typically just one page, especially for entry level, right? If we're just graduating from college, typically we would only have one page. Once you're more advanced, senior, mid-management, if you've been doing it for a couple of years, right? Working in industry for a couple of years, you might have 2 pages, right? But one is most typical. Please make sure that you use an email address that companies can contact you that are appropriate from a professional perspective, but that it is also an email address that you are going to check regularly. In some cases, I recommend that you set up an email address specifically for job search that you have linked to your smartphone, or you get into the habit of checking on a daily, if not multiple times a day. You want to make sure that you respond fast, right? When a recruiter contacts you. The other thing that we recommend students do too is include a link to your LinkedIn profile to the resume, and make sure before you do this that your LinkedIn profile is entirely updated and appropriately reflects what you have written on the resume as well, right? So you want to make sure you have all your experience, all your volunteer experience, any certificates that you might have obtained. I know some students have done some like LinkedIn Learning and some HubSpot certificates throughout their tenure in their courses here. You might have obtained an OSHA certificate or even a CPR certificate in a job that you've had. All of these things could be relevant, right? And so we want to make sure that we include all of these things on LinkedIn. What LinkedIn also allows you to do is to create a little bit of a description about yourself, right? A profile, what you're ambitious about. And so it just allows you to elaborate a little bit more about who you are as a person and the values that you might hold that might not necessarily, you might not have the ability to reflect that in a resume. So LinkedIn just allows a little bit more elaboration there. Make it easy for them, right? Click here to check out my LinkedIn, right? Make it super easy. We have some resources to get you started. The first one is Career Corner. This is a landing page that we have created for CCB students. And on this landing page, we have a resume template that you can use. We have a guide to action verbs that you could consider using, right? So that you use a variety of different words, but also perhaps a different action verb that would align with some of the things that the company is looking for to still describe, right, the responsibility that you've had or the skill that you have obtained, but making sure that you have an action verb that is powerful. It also has information there about how to tailor your resume, and I'll talk about that in just a moment as well. Another resource that you have available to you is CCB Career Coaching. We will provide you with one-on-one support where we can talk to you about where do you stand in terms of your resume development. You might have developed one maybe a year ago, and maybe you've had some more experience, or you're now ready to start using it to identify an internship or perhaps to start applying for jobs within the industry that you're looking to move into. Those could be part-time jobs as well, right? And so now you're really ready to start applying. So let's take another look at that resume and see where we need to polish it up a little bit. What are some things that maybe you can add because you've gained some additional experience? And we have walk-in times, Mondays and Wednesdays from 2 to 5 in CCB 111 during the semester. We're also available outside of that, perhaps in person, but also certainly remotely during the semester. And this, of course, is supplemental to you working with the UMD Career Center that you can always visit as well. So this is one example that I wanted to use. And I know that this is very text heavy, so I apologize for this. But I just wanted to showcase these are two different positions that are listed in Handshake right now. And this was a position for a financial advisor internship. You can see that the company on the left, look at some of the language that they're using, right? They're saying that a candidate, they're looking for a candidate who is outgoing, has energy, loves new challenges, wants to explore, new challenges that you want to explore, that you have an entrepreneurial mindset, that you have a desire to kind of like run your own business and be your own boss and be flexible with your own schedule, right? Business model that is competitive, great culture for athletes, high performance individuals that thrive and succeed in growing their own business. If you are highly involved on campus, right? Individuals who are, again, driven, entrepreneurial. Second time now that we've seen this entrepreneurial word, right? Driven, high energy, self-motivated. You can sense that there is a certain culture here that they are looking for in terms of a candidate to meet the culture that they have, right? Outgoing, positive, enthusiastic. Again, entrepreneurial, third time now that they're using that, right? Curiosity for sales. So you can already look at this left-hand side here and identify what some of those key phrases could be that you want to use in tailoring your resume. If we look at the position that we have listed on the right, this is also for a financial advisor internship. And this is what they're looking for, someone who is reasoning and analytical skills, interested in managing client relations, someone who is hardworking and trustworthy and dedicated and collaborative, someone who is a strategic thinker and has strong communication skills, someone who is motivated to work in high demand with tight deadlines. And so you can see these are similar positions in terms of what you will be doing, but you can see that the skill set and the type of person that they're looking for, they're using very different language, right? The one on the right really emphasizes strong communication skills, hardworking, trustworthy, dedicated, collaborative. So how do you use the language in your resume to reflect that you are all these things? Versus if you're applying to the one on the left, how do you best showcase that you're a self-starter and that you're an entrepreneurship? Like, how do you allow those skills and those responsibilities that you've had in your past to shine through to align with a more entrepreneurial mindset, right? So again, going to the right, we want to see what makes you unique to discover what brings you on the team. Both companies talk about, were you an athlete, participated in team sports, right? Any achievements that you might have had. So both identify it, but this sort of like the sentiment and the emotion behind it is different, right? Again, the one on the right talks again about collaboration, right? Teams, strategic projects. So again, we just want to make sure that we're intentional about the language that we're using in our resume as we're sending it to the company on the left versus the company on the right. Those key phrases are very, very different. Just to recap, right? Your resume plays an essential role in the job application process. This might be your one opportunity to interact with an employer, right? Your one opportunity to be able to get them to agree to let you come in for an interview where you can really shine and show them who you are, right? So make sure that you concisely represent key facts about your educational background, any relevant experience, any applicable skills, especially as it pertains to the key phrases, right? And some of the key requirements that the companies have already identified for you in the job description that they provide. If you have any questions at all, please feel free to email myself, Jennifer Deckers, or my colleague, Marilyn Ardito. Here are our email addresses. You can meet with us one-on-one. You can send me a quick note and have me check your resume and provide you with some feedback. Wherever it is along your journey in terms of you developing your resume and getting ready to start to send it out, we are here to support you. So thank you very much for your time. Please do not hesitate to contact us at any time with any questions you might have.